Israel unveils tunnels underneath Gaza City headquarters of UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees. Guys, they've done it. They've found UN Hamas. It's finally happened. So, probably as retaliation for the ICJ case against Israel for the crime of genocide, there have been a series of accusations levied at the UNRWA, the UN Relief and Work Administration Association? Hold on. Blanking on what the A is. Agency, that's it. The accusation essentially is that there are people in the UNRWA, which has 13,000 employees, one moment, that some of these people helped Hamas attack Israel back on October 7th. This is an article from the UNRWA pleading for donors to not suspend aid. The reason for this is because the United States has talked about suspending aid. Have we actually? U.S. aid suspending UNRWA. Have we actually done that? Yes, we have. That's right. From the Times of Israel. After suspending UNRWA funding, U.S. aims to send aid to other groups operating in Gaza. So to be clear, okay, Israel gets charged with genocide in the International Court of Justice. Then, unproven accusations of Hamas association within the massive UNRWA are made by Israel. The United States cuts funding off of just the accusation. That's all it took. Yeah, they alleged like a handful of people might be related to Hamas. Therefore, funding to all of the UNRWA, boop, bop, gone. And many other countries. Well, yes, there are other countries aligned with America with regards to our, demonic behavior there. They lost almost all their funding, not just U.S. funding. Yeah, we led the charge on this, though. We add legitimacy to Israel's shenanigans. On the 18th of January, Israel presented to the UN Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees in the Near East allegations that 12 of its roughly 13,000 employees in the Gaza Strip, 13,000 UNRWA employees in the Gaza Strip, by the way, had participated in the October 7th attacks led by Hamas. The allegations, which were publicly disclosed by UNRWA on the 26th of January and spelled out in an Israeli intel document shared with several media outlets 3 days later, also claimed that nearly 10% of the agency's staff have ties to Hamas. Thus far, Israel has not provided evidence in writing to the UN to substantiate its allegations. There you go. A cascade of countries reacted to the news by pausing or threatening to suspend their funding for the UNRWA, which was already struggling to address the humanitarian calamity in Gaza caused by the Israeli military operations launched in response to the October 7th attack. The UNRWA was one of the key humanitarian resources present there. Like, this is an area where people are already on the brink of mass death and starvation. So the accusation that only a handful of that many people might be, even if the accusations were true, which, and as I understand it, like basically no evidence has been provided to this effect. But even if those accusations were true, this would be like, would you cut funding to all humanitarian aid in a region which is in desperate need of it because you find out that 0.0001% of the people involved in giving that aid are aligned with like a regional militant group? I don't know. That's insane. Absolutely insane. Question, would them being funded actually help? Could they get that money or supplies into the country? Yes. The UNRWA was one of the only organizations that actually had the local infrastructure to continue providing aid despite all of the harm being done with regards to like aid access. The Netanyahu administration was apparently against this cut of funding. Really? Oh, just one senior official, not Netanyahu administration broadly. We oppose axing UNRWA funding mid-war, senior Israeli official says amid global funding halt. Official clarifies agency should be out of Gaza after war, but argues collapsing it now may lead to humanitarian crisis that would force IDF to halt offensive against Hamas. Okay, so this person's just saying, if you stop funding the UNRWA, too many people will die of starving for us to continue our, like, crusade here in the Gaza Strip. Like, he's basically saying this will lead to so many civilian casualties that it will, like, force reprisal against us. It'll make it optically impossible for us to continue. That's great. That's fantastic. He's saying those are my kills? Yeah, exactly. Fantastic. Absolutely wonderful. The UN has scrambled to address Israel's claims. On the 31st of January, the UNRWA announced that 2 of the accused are confirmed dead. 1 had yet to be identified, and 1 was not even an employee. I suspect Israel literally just, like, randomly named people, you know? Like, these people, like, okay, naming the dead and people who aren't even employees. Meanwhile, some 20 donor countries have placed a hold on funding commitments to the UNRWA or said they would reassess future pledges. These include the agency's 3 largest donors, the U.S., Germany, and the European Union, along with many other prominent contributors such as Canada, Japan, Sweden, Switzerland, and the UK. Others, including Belgium, Ireland, Italy, Norway, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Spain, and Turkey, expressed concern at the allegations but said they would continue funding the agency. Thank you, Ireland. Consistently been quite good on this. Thank you. Wonderful. While some media outlets that reviewed Israel's intel document have questioned the credibility of certain allegations, at least some donors have their own sources of information that may be shaping their decisions. Anyway, this article was put out when? 2 days ago. Gotcha. And today, Israel unveils tunnels underneath Gaza City headquarters of UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees. Before we talk about this bombshell, you know, I just want to clarify, even if all of Israel's allegations somehow are proven to be completely objectively correct, cutting funding off to the UNRWA remains monstrous. Obviously? What are you like, an unprecedented humanitarian crisis in the Gaza Strip, and 0.00, etc. 1% of the employees are associated with Hamas, therefore, like, let them all starve? No, insane. Not even something that should need to be defended. It's ridiculous, you know? Absolutely ridiculous. The only sensible way to address this would be a complete cessation of conflict in the Gaza Strip, and then once the dust settles, you can go, hey, UNRWA, we have some complaints about these people, blah, blah, you know, whatever. Israel has been screaming for the UNRWA to be dissolved for years, and this is all it took, you know? Obviously, there are people in the Israeli government who have wanted the liquidation of the Gaza Strip for a long time. All they had to do was wait for an opportunity where everyone's rushing to, prove solidarity to Israel and just say whatever. Are these tunnels just bomb shelters? Well, considering the fact that Israel fearmongered over the, what's the name of the hospital? The Al-Shifir? What was the name of the hospital? The hospital in Gaza City that we, Al-Shifa. I was thinking Al-Shafir. I was close. The Al-Shifa hospital, Israel complained about the tunnels underneath them, and then it turned out that the tunnels underneath the Al-Shifa hospital were built by Israel back in the 1980s or something. So what about this? The Israeli military says it has discovered tunnels underneath the main headquarters of the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees in Gaza City, alleging that Hamas militants used the space as an electrical supply room. What? The unveiling of the tunnels marked the latest chapter in Israel's campaign against the embattled agency, which it accuses of collaborating with Hamas. The army invited journalists to view the tunnel on Thursday. Thursday, huh? It did not prove definitively that Hamas militants operated in the tunnels underneath the UNRWA facility, but it did show that at least a portion of the tunnel ran underneath the facility's courtyard. What? That's it. So even from the military report, they're just like, yeah, there are tunnels. I mean, I know there are tunnels under like tons and tons of places in the Gaza Strip because we built them. But yeah, there are tunnels. So, okay. There are tunnels everywhere in every city. There are tunnels in America. We put stuff in them. Yeah, like what? The headquarters on the western edge of Gaza City are now completely decimated. To locate the tunnel, forces repeated an Israeli tactic used everywhere in the Strip, overturning mounds of red earth to produce a crater-like hole giving way to a small tunnel entrance. What? The secret IDF tunnel finding tactic of digging a hole? Is that... Oh. Well, great minds think alike. That is also the tactic that I would use to find a hole in the ground, by digging a hole. All right. Inside one of the UNRWA buildings, journalists saw a room full of computers with wires stretching down into the ground. Soldiers then showed them a room in the underground tunnel where they claimed the wires connected. What? That underground room bore a wall of electrical cabinets with multicolored buttons and was lined with dozens of cables. The military claimed the room served as a hub powering tunnel infrastructure in the area. What? Electrical cabinets? What is that? Powering tunnel infra... You power stuff with generators. What are they... Did they find a generator? Is it a server room? What... If you see a bunch of, like, electronic equipment or computer equipment, it's not mysterious what that equipment does. It's not difficult to look at and find out what it does. Generators operate, like, mechanically. You generate electricity through a mechanical process. You can burn stuff. You know, diesel generators are common. Like, that it's an identifiable thing. Or is it a server room? Like, how old was the equipment? Multicolored buttons lined with dozens of cables. That sounds like ancient shit, like presidential bunker 1980s analog stuff, you know? Is it possible that it was built and left there by Israel because back in the 80s, Israel built a bunch of tunnels there for their own purposes? I don't know. 20 meters above us is the UNRWA headquarters, says Lieutenant Colonel Ido, whose last name was redacted by the military. Cool. What? What? All right. This is the electricity room. You can see all around here. What is an electricity room? What does that mean? The batteries, the electricity on walls, everything is conducted from here? What does that mean? Is this a translation thing? I have no idea. Well, given the long-standing credibility of the IDF, you know, I have no reason not to believe their extremely detailed assessment of the what's contained within these rooms. This is the power source room. You have to destroy it to kill the power. Yeah, this is like the security rooms that Shodan controlled in the first System Shock. Electrical room, it's likely a translation error. Yeah, they mean like this? Like a distribution room, right? So where's the generator? And what time was the equipment manufactured? There are images? Oh, sweet. There are images. I thought they said journalists could only come in on Thursday. I guess they would have put their own pictures out. This looks like shit. Would this be like a distribution center? Or a server room? Because that looks more like little individual fans, you know? A server room, probably. This is where Hamas stored their servers. You see. Well, the room doesn't look super old. That much I can say for sure, right? Like, a lot of the stuff here definitely doesn't look like it's 45 years old or whatever. But I guess I could be wrong on that. And and by their own admission, they have absolutely no evidence that Hamas operated here. Is that since they just fronted that? Yes. UNRWA needs to be dismantled, all its leadership arrested for collusion with Hamas. This guy is like 14 years old, and he's a demon. He's like the ultimate non-credible defense guy. The military said forces uncovered rifles, ammunition, grenades, and explosives in the facility, claiming it had been used by Hamas militants. I thought they said they didn't have evidence of that. Telma said the agency has not revisited the headquarters since staff evacuated October 12th and is unaware of how the facility might have been used. Oh, true. That's another pretty credible explanation, right? If there were tunnels there after the evacuation in the Gaza City, like there were Hamas militants moving around in Gaza City after the evacuation, right? It makes sense they would take any, tunnel that it could. You know, the Defund Israel account got banned from Twitter. Wasn't the Defund Israel account explicitly just Nazis? Like they were posting Holocaust denialism? I'm surprised Elon would have somebody like that banned. Yes? Okay. The chat's not visible, so I have to, like, acknowledge what you guys are saying when I ask a question. Well, I guess we'll see if we ever get an independent investigation of this spurious claim that Israel has made after other spurious claims they've made in an area that is war-torn and the IDF controls all access to. Apparently, some of the stuff in the room was the solar powering of the building. Underground room service. This is like technical specificity stuff that I couldn't verify, so I don't want to repeat claims like that. It could be true, right? Like, it could be correct, but I would have no idea. We've got him, boys. There we go. Big tunnel. Israel hates the UNRWA because it supports the right of return for Palestinians. Makes sense. I mean, they probably, even if it wasn't for that, they would probably hate the UNRWA for, you know, like feeding Palestinians. Gets in the way of them dying. Well, I guess we'll see.